Is there, something when it comes to communicating that you see a lot of parents doing that, can maybe be done differently? Or, what are you really seeing, and how is skillful communication so important?
Sure. I think that we have this crazy idea about parenting that like we're just gonna instinctively know how to do it. It's so funny because we don't think that with other things. We're not like, I'm gonna just be perfect at tennis or cooking or horseback riding, like without ever like learning, So, but what happens is and there are instincts obviously when our kids are babies, but that's pretty early on. But the things we think of as instincts are actually really conditioned responses from your own childhood and the culture at large. So in the culture at large, we treat kids pretty disrespectfully. Like we do a lot of like we bark orders at them kind of constant. Like if you're a 2-year old, your life consists of like pick up your toy, put on your shoes, push in your chair, put that back, get in the car. It's just like a constant stream of orders directed at you. And we just don't realize it because that's just the milieu of our culture. Like it just, seems really normal. So in mindful parenting, what we're doing is it's amazing because there are ways that have been studied about communication since like the 60s and the 70s. So I studied and looked at like nonviolent communication with Marshall Rosenberg and parent effectiveness training with Thomas Gordon. Both of those people studied under, oh God, I'm blanking the name. You're probably remembering it, dear listener. What, at least one of you is. Anyway, and so that they, in these styles of communication, they realize that a lot of the things we do as parents are actually like pretty counterproductive, you know, like orders, for instance, like because there are no human beings on the planet, no matter what age, that like to be ordered around. Um, it makes kids resist what you say, just naturally kind of be resistant. And that builds up over time. We use threats, right? If you don't do this, I'm going to take away your screen time. And kids resist that too because no one likes to be threatened and it doesn't make a lot of sense, so it causes resentment. And so what happens is like over time this resentment builds and builds, and then those threats have to kind of escalate and escalate. And so then when we stop having power over our kids, right? So we have power over our young ones, a lot of power over their lives, how their lives are. And then as you have a child who gets into adolescence, they can get themselves dressed, get their own food, get themselves to school. They can do a lot of they don't need as much. So you literally like have less power over them. And so what happens is that by the time you get to adolescence, so much resentment from these old school tactics has built that you've destroyed the influence that you have, because power has an inverse relationship with influence. The more power you use, the less influence you have. And the less you use power, the more influence you have. So we teach communication skills that don't require someone to like manipulate and use power over another party. And what that involves is starting to understand like um, how when we have conflicts are really people having conflicting needs. Every single thing our child does, every single instance of what we think of as bad behavior is your child trying to meet a need of theirs, whether it's autonomy or attention or affection or whatever it is. And the same is true for us, right? Like we are also trying to meet our needs. And when we can start to understand that, rather than condemning them for their behavior or shaming or blaming them for a behavior that we don't like, we don't like hitting and things like that, we can start to say, okay, we can step back a minute and say, what does my child need to learn in this situation? And that's like a whole shift in the way we look at parenting.
That's actually what really clicked for me. I remember a few years ago listening to you, give a little talk, and that's what you were talking about. You were talking about how, as parents, are you blaming them? Are you shaming them? Are you ordering them? Like those things, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm doing. And it really hit me that, oh, I didn't think that what I was saying, a threatening, I didn't think I was threatening, but I did that a lot. Like, oh, you better do this, or I'm gonna, or clean this up now, or we're not gonna, you do something fun. Like there was all these, like I was really big, and it's still something that's hard to work through, but I'm,
Oh
I'm
yeah, yeah.
definitely
I just have
getting a
to
lot
say,
better.
me too.
Yeah.
Interject here and say, like, when I'm like in a place where I'm like, nothing's working, like threatening is like totally my go-to too. So I am not like an amazing, perfect angel of communication yet either.
I don't think anyone is, right? We can agree on
No,
that,
yes.
right? But I didn't realize that how I was communicating with my kids was actually, blaming them, was shaming them, was threatening them. And that sat with me kind of hard, because I didn't want to be communicating that way. And it just, you really made me think of something different. Like, it can be different, and I don't want to lose. My kids are still young. I don't want to lose that relationship as I get older. And that really stuck with me and I think is one of, there's so many valuable parts, but one of the most valuable things for me learning was the skillful communication, was these different tools that I can really speak to my children a lot better. And it's amazing, they listen and they do things differently, and they start to model that. Just it's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
I do have
yeah.
to say.
It is pretty awesome. And I have to say it's hard too. Like it's like kind of like learning a new language, you know? It's like we kind of have to translate in our heads, and it is challenging. And that's why like in the membership, we have kind of these big three communication skills, and that's why in the membership we're now like every month we're doing a specific practice skills section on one of those communication skills, and we're like getting together and we're like in breakout rooms and everybody's practicing, and we're really breaking it down because it really is like a language that you're learning, and it's not like one and done. Okay, thanks Hunter, I got it. And that's why we offer that like lifetime membership too, because we want to support people at different ages and stages. Catch new episodes of the Mindful Mama podcast and other free resources, including the Mindful Mom Guide at mindfulmamamentor.com. You can listen to every back catalog episode, including interviews with Dr. Dan Siegel, Janla Van Zant, Sharon Salzberg, and get meditations, join our private Facebook group, and more. Go to mindfulmamamentor.com now. I'll see you there.